Hello and welcome to my studio. Now, if like myself, you are an avid viewer of YouTube videos surrounding arts and crafts, you will have seen that acrylic markers seem to have taken the art world by storm, especially since the invention of the brush nib marker. I too have fallen down that rabbit hole and have bought many acrylic markers as a result, and I have to say I absolutely truly love them. And as someone who is a self-confessed alcohol marker girly, I do find myself reaching for the acrylic markers more. So they are something I would highly recommend, but there are a few things I wish I had known before I went spending all my money on acrylic markers. So I thought I would share with you a few things that I check for before I purchase an acrylic marker and a few hints and tips on how to use them when you have them. So without further ado, shall we just get into it? So I do want to thank the lovely people from Ohuhu that have sent me this fabulous package. I'm so excited. I do know what's in here. And I'm very excited because I already have some of their pens, but I have a much smaller set. So I'm very excited to see this pen in all its glory with a lot more colours. So let's unbox, have a little look at what's in this gorgeous package, and we will get into everything you need to know before starting your journey with acrylic markers. So we have here the Ohuhu Nahuku. I love these markers. I already know I love these markers. So let's have a look at why, and I am just going to share, oh my goodness, look at all those colours. So I have currently, show you what I do have. So I currently have this one, which is the 24 set, and this is the 48 set. So this is double, so let's have a little look-see. We have gorgeous selection of pinks and oranges and yellows. Then we've got our blues and greens. Then we have the purples and pinks going into a little bit of brown just at the end there. Then we've got some more browns and greys. This I love the idea of. We have 3 black and 3 white because we all just reach for black and white so much. So I love the fact that we have spare of those because you can't buy them individually, or maybe you can, but I do think this is a really good idea. So we do have a little user manual to get us started, which is useful. We have the little colour swatch here, and we have the 2 swatches. So I'm just going to compare. So this is the one I have currently. My daughter's going to inherit this one because she's been after some of these markers as well. So we can see we do have these, but we've just got a smaller range of the variety of colours. So, but both are fabulous sets. So before I get into swatching, I mentioned there's a couple of things for me before I purchase a pen that are completely non-negotiable now. And both of those have the boxes ticked when it comes to these Ohuhu markers. First is the window. So if I look at this window, I can see personally how much the level of the ink. So if a pen gets a little bit dry, you can tell whether it's just that the ink's run out or whether the paint is getting dry. Also, sometimes the ink can separate a little bit, and you can see that in this window. So if it has separated, these are brand new, but let's have a little look at some of my older ones here. So I don't know if you can see it on there. You see it's slightly darker green there, and then we've got lighter there because this is my older set. So I can then give this a shake until that I can see it's all blended really well. And once it's all blended, I know that it's good to use. So that is one of the reasons that I really like the window. I wonder if there's a better example. Can you see that with the purple as well? I don't know how close I can get. That we've got like a bit of like the opaque pigment here, and then it's almost like purple liquid there in the centre. And the second one, while I'm shaking it, that is my other non-negotiable. This has a ball bearing. So I have had pens without the windows and especially without the ball bearing, and very quickly they have dried up, and although that they have been a well promoted brand, I've ended up absolutely hating them because there wasn't that ability to quickly reactivate. Now, you don't have to shake all these pens. They are good to go straight away, as you will see as we start swatching. But the fact that these pens have the ability to do that is an absolute must for me. So before purchasing anything, I would make sure it has this feature here, the window, and that ball bearing. So let me just pop you on speed up and we'll have a little chat as I gradually swatch these markers. So if, as I'm swatching these, you are thinking these look really, really lush, I need them in my stash, then I'm delighted to say that the lovely people from Ohuhu have given me a discount code. So using the link below, you can use the code JuliaCrafts10 and that will get you a 10% discount off these pens and any other Ohuhu products, which I highly recommend because they're gorgeous. So the next thing to be aware of with your acrylic markers are some are more opaque than others. So you can kind of check the opacity more on the black card. I know some people find this annoying about acrylic markers, but even if you were to use normal acrylics, some colours are inherently more opaque than others. So like for example, if you were to get an acrylic aquadome magenta, that tends to be more translucent. So it figures that the same will happen with your markers. There are going to be some that are slightly more translucent than others. That's fine, we just need to identify what those ones are so that we can understand that when we go forward with our artworks. So for example, this one here, you can see that that's like a really bold sort of skin tone, but here it looks quite washed out. Same with the R2 one, it's a pale pink. So it does seem to be more with the paler colours with acrylic markers, but that's fine. We just need to take that into consideration when we are creating. So let's just choose a nice dark colour. I love this violet. Let's go with that. What's that? V119. I think that's this one, is it? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is we'll just take a section like this and colour that in. I'm going to let that dry a minute. And then if we take this R2 one, that is going to be a little bit translucent and it's going to struggle to cover it. So there's two ways you can approach this. So let's have a little look here. If we go like this, we're getting a little bit of movement. That's another thing with acrylic markers. I do tend to find that they pick up. So sometimes it's being aware of that. I've probably not let that dry long enough. But this is another thing. I do find that if it doesn't dry really well, and sometimes even it is dry, it does tend to pick up a little bit. So to be aware of that. And also when it does do that, it goes onto your markers. Now, as I say, these are not flaws. They are just things that occur. But what I would do is you just scribble off, and I'm just sort of rotating the pen as I go, and I just scribble off until we get that nice soft pink again. So if that happens, it hasn't ruined your markers, it's just a little bit of transfer. Now sometimes this transfer can be a really cool effect when you are colouring, so knowing that it does that can be useful in your artwork, but it also stops you kind of creating disasters as well. So this is again one of these things that I kind of wish I knew a little bit, because I'm just thinking acrylic, it dries fine, you can layer on top of each other, it doesn't sort of reactivate, but there does seem to be something in acrylic markers that cause a little bit of reactivation. We'll see if we get as much if I just thoroughly dry it. Let me grab my heat gun. So we see now when we wait for it to dry thoroughly the difference between this one and this one. So this one, the purple has moved. As I said, we might want that in a project, but if we let it dry thoroughly, then you don't get the same movement, but you can see that purple popping through. Now there's two approaches we can take to that. One is we can just keep layering, and then the other one is we can block a section out with white. Now the thing is, the white can be a little bit translucent itself when it comes to a marker, but sort of white paint or your white marker, and you can block that out first. You can already see that although the white tends to be a bit transparent, it's not quite as transparent as that pink. Okay, so what we can do is we can just keep layering the pink over and over, or we can block it out with white first and then layer. And you'll see that both work, but you will get a slightly different tonal variation. So this is like now 2 layers of the pink, and you can still see that purple popping through. This is a layer of pink over the white, and if I put the pink beside it there, that is very similar. So if you're using something that's slightly more transparent, pop a little white underneath it and you will get something true to your swatch on your artwork. So if you're wanting it true to your swatch, fine, but if you want to play with transparencies and variation of colour, you can just layer it up there. So I'll give it another go. So that's now had 3 coats, and still there's a slight difference in shade. But as I said, understanding all of those things just allows you, give that a dry so you can see. So even when that's dry, so this has had 1 coat of white, 1 coat of pink, and it's slightly paler than that. Possibly if we gave that a second coat, it would match completely. This one's now had 3 coats, but you can still see the colour underneath. So again, one of the things that is worth noting, sorry, I've said that like a gazillion times, but this is about things that I wish I knew before I started. And we are going to discuss some more things that I wish I knew before I started on my acrylic marker journey as we colour in these stamped images. Now, I do apologise if there was a little bit of a clunky edit there. We have switched from Real-Time Julia to Voice Time Julia because I'm going to speed up this section quite considerably, otherwise we would be here for hours, and I don't think any of us have time for that. So this is one of my stamps. This is Strawberry Place, and what we are doing with the first one is we are just doing a very flat blend. So we're laying down 1 layer of colour, letting that dry. Once it's dry, we will come in with darker colours for the shadows and lighter colours for the highlights. I also have to apologise for the fact I keep sticking my head in the shot. Honestly, I've been filming for years. I don't know why I have suddenly started doing this all the time. The only thing I can think of is that I am getting old and I can't see as well, and I'm probably sticking my face in my artwork so I can see it. But yeah, as you can see, what we've done is we've coloured it completely. We've now added those darker tones for the shadows. We are getting this gorgeous yellow on for the strawberry seeds, and I do love this about acrylic markers. We can put light on top of dark. There's no cross-contamination and it really pops, which makes it a really fun medium. I have pulled out some of my other hoo-hoo markers because these ones have a nice fine tip, and I do find when it comes to adding those extra sort of diddly details that I prefer to do it with a fine tip. You can get a really fine line with these particular acrylic markers. I've just not quite developed that skill yet. On this page, what we are going to do is we are going to blend as we go. So I have got 2 or 3 markers in a highlight, shadow and mid-tone, and I'm sort of blending them together as I go. So while the acrylic ink is still wet on the page, I am sort of blending it together. Now, I mentioned earlier that I don't always clean my pen off as I am doing this particular technique, and you can see that that's what I've done just here as we are colouring in the leaves. I'm looking to have multiple shades and tones in these leaves, and for them not all to look the same, for them to be a bit of variety, and so that's when it actually works in your favour, the fact that you've almost got that dual toned pen by the fact you've contaminated it slightly. So I just wait till I finish the image and then clear it all off. So those are 2 different styles of blending. As I said, a nice flat blend and also one where we blend on the page. Now, one of the other things that I wish I knew before I started is you don't have to let the acrylic marker do all the work. You can give it a little bit of a helping hand. So I've got a reference of a pear here because I am wanting to get that gorgeous sort of transition from those pinky reds into the yellows and greens. That can be a little bit of a difficult transition, and quite often I found when I used acrylic markers without using this technique, I'd be going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and the page was sort of getting wetter and inkier and messier, and I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. But if I just paused, took out a paintbrush, I tend to use one that's slightly damp and one that's dry, and that really helps to create that nice soft blended look. I think having this technique as well is perfect for if you ever sketch on location. I really like these pens on location because they're nice and small. Sometimes I find the fact that they're quite small a little bit difficult ergonomically, but to be honest, whilst I'm actually on location, it's brilliant because I can fit quite a few into my pencil case, and you wouldn't really take acrylic markers with you on a sketchbook date because that's a lot of stuff, whereas just a couple of pens and a water brush and you are good to go, which is really fab. But look how fine I'm managing to get those details by the fact that I've got that little brush as well, which is really fun. So again, this can just extend what you can do with your acrylic markers if you use other tools alongside it. And I'm just finally adding the little details. Now, one of the other things that I wish I knew, it's again fairly obvious, I don't know why it took me so long to realise, is you can mix your own colours. So I've just scribbled onto my stamping block, but if you don't have one, a bit of acetate, your packaging, anything shiny, so you can scribble down and then you can actually mix your colours together and create your own colours. So if there's a painting that you're doing with your markers and there's a colour that's missing that you really need, you can still make your own as you would with any other paint. And that is a really useful thing that I wish I'd worked out sooner. One of the other things that I absolutely love regarding acrylic markers is they literally go over everything. This is one of my handmade journals, and I tend to use mop-up pages in my handmade journals. So honestly, on this page, I really don't know what's there. By looking at it, I would say there's a bit of texture paste. We definitely have some gel medium on that, and we've got some acrylic paints. But what's good is you don't have to worry about what's on the underneath layer. You can guarantee that the acrylic markers are going to go over it and it's all going to look fab. Apparently they don't go for oils, but I can't test that because I don't have any oils. Me and oils don't get on. But yeah, other than that, they literally go over everything, which makes them perfect for fixing mistakes. Now I'm taking that to an extreme in this example because I'm going to fix an entire artwork. I really didn't like that artwork. For some reason, I didn't film me turning all of that black. I don't know what happened to the footage, but anywho, I promise you, one pass with the pen and we had it completely blacked out, ready to start again. And I'm going to create a sort of fantasy forest theme using some of the techniques that we have discussed so far, because I really just wanted to have a good play with these markers and see how I got on. There's a real testimony to how bright I managed to get this artwork in the end, considering I started off with a black background. I'm not sure that would have been my choice, but it was the easiest way to get rid of the artwork underneath. You can see here I am using the technique with the paintbrushes, with both wet and dry, to try and get that blend between that orange and the purple, and having that extra assistance really helped make a difference. And what I love about acrylic markers as well is that you can literally layer upon layer upon layer, and it absolutely turns out fine. It will take it, which is fabulous. One of the other things that I love about these markers as well is I have never been particularly successful at painting with acrylic paint. I don't find that when I use a brush I have the same control over the detailed parts of it. And so acrylic markers have really just opened up a whole new world for me with that, because I'm a marker girly at heart. I love colouring with markers. I have done 25 odd years colouring with alcohol markers, and last year I fell in love with acrylic markers, so I definitely feel a lot more confident with markers than with the actual paint. But the fact that we now have these and in a brush nib, because that's been a whole revelation, it really has opened up a world that was kind of closed to me. And I think possibly with some of the things that I have learned with the markers, I might be able to learn to use acrylic paints as well. But I absolutely love these as a medium. I really enjoyed playing, and there we go. We have a wonderful, a magical forest completely done with acrylic markers. Thank you so much for watching today, and I do hope that you find the various hints and tips that I have shared to be useful. If you know of any more tips, please do let me know in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Honestly, when it comes to acrylic markers, we have barely scratched the surface in this video. They are one of the most versatile products. I love them, and I literally pull for them every single time that I create. One of my favourite ways of using them is with other art mediums, and you can create some really cool colouring effects. So for example, This one, we've managed to create like iridescent looking wings by combining alcohol markers and acrylic markers. This one, again, we've got the glowing heart effect by using acrylic markers on top of alcohol markers. And this one, we've created a real fantasy effect. She's got gold strands of hair and golden wings. And again, that's been through creating with alcohol markers and acrylic markers. I do have links to those videos. They will appear magically in just a moment. If you are thinking of getting acrylic markers or any other Ohuhu products, don't forget there is a discount code JuliaCrafts10. Details are in the description box. Once again, I would really like to thank Ohuhu for sponsoring this video, and I will be back on Friday with a brand new video. Take care, and I'll see you then. Bye.